It's the Harry Lollipop Show.
Ah, sick. I'm leaving the meeting.
Oh my gosh. We just found it out, hit record, and now you're going to leave. So
the hammer thing is really good right now.
Welcome to the Harry Lollipop Show. I think that's the greatest name of all time.
Harry Lollipops are my favorite dessert.
Yes, just don't Google Harry Lollipop.
Because it's really gross.
Very,
and it's
very
actually not my favorite dessert. I want to just throw that out there.
I mean, somebody out there enjoys the Harry Lollipop. But not us.
No.
So earlier we were talking about the whole
I know there's one in the middle.
we were talking about the Black Widow stuff.
The steps are in the mall. You know where the steps
Which I just watched the last 30 minutes of again.
Just kind of like refresh or
yeah.
I'm really screwed. Go back to where you start out. Yep.
So hold on. You might have to move to a different area because I can hear them louder than I can hear you.
Great. These guys. I'm gonna go in the backyard. The backyard seems like a nice place to be. Backyard it is.
Hopefully your neighbor doesn't complain.
Yeah, most likely will.
Oh, what are you doing back there recording? Don't get my face in there. But no, yeah. So I know we earlier we were talking about Black Widow, which my only complaint with Black Widow was the whole Taskmaster thing.
Agreed.
So everything else you thought was pretty good though, right?
Yeah, that was pretty good overall. Fills in a lot of gaps and gives you a picture of what Natasha was doing when or after the events in Civil War. I like that we've been getting more General Ross. I think they're building to something more with him.
Yeah.
So we went for how many years before we saw him again? We went from Incredible Hulk all the way to till Civil War, till we saw him again. Now we've seen him Civil War, we saw him Infinity War, Endgame, and now Black Widow, and then we're going to see him again in She-Hulk. So we're getting a lot of General Ross.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, there's a huge reason for that, and that's, I think, going to make itself very clear here very soon, because I feel like there's a possibility of having two different teams built at the same time. I mean, you're looking at maybe Valentina, aka Madam Hydra, building maybe Dark Avengers, and then maybe Ross building Thunderbolts, or maybe she's working for Ross. We don't know yet, because Thunderbolts seems to be a big topic. So we'll see. I mean, obviously he's going to play a big part in She-Hulk, at least you would think he would. So we'll see how that goes. And Titania has been confirmed to be the villain in that series. So I feel like there's going to be more of a presence for Ross, but yeah, the reveal with Taskmaster was kind of disappointing.
And that was going to be the complaint you were about to say.
Yeah, because I was hoping it was going to be Tony Masters or something along those lines. I think that I would have rather seen Dreykov's daughter take up the Iron Maiden mantle and been like the leader of the Red Room. I mean, you saw a glimpse of it in Melena's little room that she had set up. You saw the Iron Maiden mask in there, so I think it'd have been more natural if that would have occurred. Because I just feel like at this point you've wasted a really good character in Taskmaster. I mean, the multiverse with all the events from Loki have opened all those branches. There's gonna be different universes, so maybe we'll see that at some point. But I just feel like at this point you've really wasted that character.
And you wasted potentially two characters. Because you could have had Iron Maiden, and then you have Taskmaster. Like, because I mean, that's the biggest complaint of everybody is Tony not being Taskmaster, which I mean, the character of Taskmaster is supposed to be a smartass, for lack of better term, and he's supposed to sit there and just talk crap like a Deadpool, but not as goofy, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But that's at least
See,
that's what
where
I've
I
always
was
seen.
and that's where I was kind of hoping that you see Valentina going through and recruiting these people like John Walker, and then you see her recruit Yelena. But I think that for story purposes and for maybe even the movie purposes, recruiting a Taskmaster to be on that team, training, her the people that she's recruiting, and then on top of it, and then him being this, ultimate assassin who can mimic and mirror anybody's fighting styles. I think that would have been to me, that would have been a better story than what is kind of unfolding. I mean, we don't know where it's at still.
Yeah.
It's still pretty new, so we don't know, but I think that would have been a lot cooler.
And with Loki, everything can just be,
yeah, because we don't even know where Loki's at.
Yeah. But what would be interesting would be seeing US agent and Taskmaster being put on a team and just button heads the entire time. Because US agent, he's gonna be like, no, I was in the military, I know what I'm doing. And then Taskmaster's like, if they did the old school Taskmaster, I was Shield. Well, he might not say Shield actually, because he doesn't remember that part. But he's Taskmaster. He's the man. Like, and I just see those two would be button heads, and that would cause an inner conflict within the team. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it. Just makes more depth when you have stuff like that, the inner conflicts and building up.
It'll be interesting to see where they go with this, because obviously Valentina's had like 5 minutes of screen time, and you really don't know what she's doing, because if everything would have happened the way it should have happened, if COVID wouldn't have happened, you would have saw her first in Black Widow. So I mean, and it was pretty vague what she was doing. It was more her appearance in Falcon and Winter Soldier was kind of explained more of what was going on, because the one that the stinger there at the end of Black Widow, you didn't get much. I mean, you got just a little tiny bit of what was happening.
Right. Yeah, and then so with Loki, like you said, we don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, you and I more than others, and then some of these other individuals on like YouTube and whatnot who read comic books, watched the cartoons growing up, we kind of have like an idea, but then again, it's Disney Marvel, so it's like you think they're going this way, and then all of a sudden they go like that, but then they make a U-turn, go up a hill, down a hill, and then hit a tree. So I mean, but I mean, you and I were talking about the Loki series the entire time. It's like, oh man, this, that's gonna happen. And then it happened. Like we knew that something big was gonna happen with the timeline, and we knew for sure Kang or Immortus or was gonna be there. You called when you saw the Citadel. He's like, that's the Citadel. I was like, I know, man. Like we pick up on these things that other individuals might not pick up, or casual fans might not pick up on, but the whole that Taskmaster thing really threw me for a loop. I was just like, what? Like, the idea was good.
It was, but and when me and Leo were watching it the first time, when you first see Taskmaster, I said Taskmaster walks like a woman. I thought it was Milena maybe, but I'm like, that walks like a woman. That's a woman. That's not. So everybody thought it was what's his face, Black Widow's best friend in that movie, but I'm like, dude, she walks like a woman. That's a woman.
That could have been interesting though. If it turned out to be him, like that could have been pretty interesting to, like maybe he was supposed to be Masters, and then I don't know, because then he wouldn't.
That would have been interesting if they would have went that route, and kind of filling in the blanks with him. But I mean, you could just tell the way I don't know. It was just weird. It was weird, like when Taskmaster first, the first scene with Taskmaster, I was like, that walk is kind of weird. I'm like, and you could kind of see in the armor and everything that she was wearing. I'm like, it just seemed more feminine. So,
well, funny thing is, it was actually a dude wearing the suit. The only time that it was a woman was the unmasking. So it might
which
be
is
really
weird. Because, dude, as soon as I saw Taskmaster on screen, I was like, "That's a woman." I looked at Lee and I said, "It's a woman."
Oh, Crystal called that, dude. When we were watching it, she's like, it's gonna be the daughter. And I was like, no, they're not gonna do that. And then she took that mask off, and I was like, you right. You got me on
Well,
that.
and a lot of those widows are going to pop up in other movies. Kevin Feige was talking about that today, because one of the widows is in Shang-Chi.
Okay.
She was on set. They had pictures of her wearing the Shang-Chi jacket, and she posted, something along the lines of, glad to be back with Marvel, and finish shooting Shang-Chi and blah blah blah. So I think they're going to pop up in a lot of different movies. I don't know if people are really going to notice. I mean, unless you're a hardcore fan, you see her in the Red Room or see her face popped up on the screen when Natasha was downloading everything. But but I think we'll see glimpses of them in other movies, because I think Milena and Alexei will make more appearances, because I think Red Guardian is going to be a character I think that people are really going to fall in love with, because his whole character is probably one of my favorite parts of that movie. Was from the beginning, when you see him back in the 80s when they're on the run to where he was at getting out of jail.
Yeah.
I think his arc through the next whatever movies he's in or TV shows he appears in should be pretty interesting.
Now, did you catch the cameo when he's doing the arm wrestling?
Yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, and then I believe that was confirmed that that was Ursa Major. By somebody. So,
which makes sense about the toy now.
Yeah,
why they did that.
Yeah, so that could be your first mutant in the MCU, really.
Yeah. Now, segue, talking about mutants. They set that up perfectly with Loki. If they do it right, because you when you and I were talking about it on the phone the other day, you mentioned how he was talking about all the other versions of himself, talking about Kang or Mortis, where he was at that point. And he said he had the Conqueror one. Oh, there you are. It said Dr. Seymour Butts. Which back in the day, he became the Pharaoh during the time of Apocalypse. So I mean, that could be a segue into mutants. You know what I mean? And then what was it? The statue. That was definitely. Let me hold on real quick. I'm gonna grab something. So I really think if you're looking at this, that looked like the suit.
Oh yeah, it was very comic accurate
stuff. Like it really did look like it for real.
I've been looking at some of the fan art, and I hope that they do the blue face. They're not going to do a mask or anything like they did in the comics, but I hope that the helmet has that blue tint. I mean, if they don't do that, then they've done messed up. But some of the fan art for Kang is pretty legit.
I haven't seen any of it.
I'll send you some later. But there's one guy who drew some sketches, and I mean it's spot on to what you would want him to look like, especially after seeing the statue in the last episode of Loki, because I feel like that statue, the costume, like you're saying, was really comic accurate. So hopefully with the helmet and there's some blue tint there, I think it will look really good. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of craziness that's about to occur. It's going to make Thanos look like nothing.
Yeah, for real. It really is. And that's one thing too. They took some liberties with Thanos because the whole reason why he did what he did was to impress what was it, Lady Death?
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't brought I don't think they've spoke about her at all.
No.
So that'd be
I thought that
interesting.
might be a component in Infinity War Endgame, but they never did it.
Maybe they'll,
because some people were theorizing in, I think it was what movie was it? It was Age of Ultron, where when Wanda was putting people under her spell, and it took Thor back to Asgard, that woman in the cloak who was walking through the middle. Some were theorizing that was Death, and that was, her first appearance, and we'd see her again at some point, but it ended up obviously not being. But that's just maybe just like a throwaway scene, because I don't think anyone ever really knew who that was walking through the crowd there. But yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll do something with Deadpool, because Deadpool's had a thing for her too, because Deadpool and Thanos were both battling over Lady Death's love. So,
well, and going back to Deadpool real quick, that Deadpool and Korg movie preview was maybe one of the funniest things I've watched in a long time.
Yeah,
that was hilarious,
dude. I don't know, Korg. I just love Korg. He's just,
who doesn't?
The way he acts and talks, he's. I would drink a beer with him. And I don't really drink beers, but I would sit and drink a beer with him. So
that character is hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm interested too to see, going back to Black Widow, I'm interested to see how Yelena plays out, and what her story will be. I mean, obviously, she's most likely moving forward as the Black Widow of the MCU, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how she takes on that mantle and on that role. She's always been, obviously, you can tell she's been a loner. She's never worked really with anybody. She's been by herself. So it'd be weird to see her, working with, what's left of the Avengers and what is to come. And I mean, her story will pick up obviously in Hawkeye with whatever's going to happen with Clint. I mean, Valentina wants her to go after Clint, which is interesting. That was an interesting piece on its own, seeing that, because, what was the purpose behind that Valentina would want Barton taken out. So that will be an interesting dynamic in that TV show. And then I guess we'll get a little bit more of Yelena's story once we get in there. But I think that I really hope that they kind of dive into, her past. I think from what I was reading today, we'll get to see, whether, which, like I think you and I were talking about earlier, it doesn't really affect anything, or really to me doesn't have really any relevance, but whether that group of people was blipped or not during the snap, if they disappeared or came back. I mean, you're 5 years younger than you would be, but but was she there? Was she gone? So I guess that really, I guess that affects it a little bit, because was she out doing who knows what for that 5 years, or was she gone?
Yeah, I mean, because if she wasn't blipped, then she could have been going after Clint that entire time.
And
well,
I don't think so, because even if she wasn't gone, when you see the stinger on Black Widow, she's at the grave. And that's when Valentina says, "Do you want to get revenge on the person who killed your sister?"
Yeah, that's right.
But then she'd be going, try to hunt him down in present time.
I bet a lot of people are gonna get mad from that. They're like, "Hey, idiot, you're not paying attention."
Yeah. I kind of wonder, just kind of going off topic of something else, but I'm just I wonder if Marvel thinks that Shang-Chi might be in trouble a little bit. Like maybe the interest in that movie, because in the trailer, you give away two major cameos in Abomination and Wong, and somehow in some sort of cage fight, which I kind of want to know how either one of them ends up there. That's kind of interesting, because it's funny, because like James Gunn just came out and said about a week or two ago that the Marvel TV shows prior to what we're getting now on Disney Plus are not canon with the MCU, but I thought at some point Feige said they were, and then if you remember back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson said that Abomination was in some sort of super prison in Alaska.
Right.
So how did he end up in some sort of fight club with Wong?
Yeah.
But why give those two cameos away in a trailer, which kind of is interesting, unless maybe you're thinking maybe early showings of this movie or the buzz about this movie is just not, all hyped up, and it's not where we thought maybe it'd be, because you just gave away something huge. So I think the next two movies that Marvel puts out are going to be, though Black Widow didn't do as good as I think that maybe they thought it would do. I think it did good for COVID era, and it's going to make, maybe around 500 million, but I think that they were shooting for Captain Marvel numbers, being close to $1 billion. But I think the next two movies could be a barometer for them. How good is Shang-Chi and Eternals going to do? I mean, after you get past those two movies, you get back to, more of your core. You get back to the Hawkeye TV show, and you get back to Spider-Man. And then after that, you jump back to Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange is going to have Wanda and Loki, and who knows what their cameos you're going to get in that. But
and that's going to get crazy with the multiverse going on and everything.
Yeah, and it's going to be weird to see the next two movies, how they tie into everything and where they sit in the timeline. I mean, is Shang-Chi, present? Is it current? Is it after the timeline broke up in Loki, or was it prior? How's that going to play out? And then with Eternals, I mean, that trailer for Eternals gave you nothing. I mean, it gave you absolutely zero, other than the fact that they talk about how they've never impeded anything, up until now. Everything, I guess, that was supposed to happen the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how Kang or Immortus, said, all this stuff was supposed to happen. But
right.
So I just think it's going to be interesting to see how the next two movies do. Whether, they're big hits, or, if they kind of flounder a little bit. But people said the same thing, though, when Doctor Strange first came out. Is Strange going to, be able to do what the other Marvel movies have done? What about Ant-Man and stuff like that? So, I mean, it can go either way. But Shang-Chi, I mean, the trailer looks good and all the action stuff looks great. But to me, it goes back to, now you're bringing in the 10 rings. I mean, they've had a presence prior, obviously.
Right.
But you're bringing the 10 rings, and there's no Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is you're bringing in this magic and these rings, and, and obviously there's going to be different. The comic books are not, it's going to be some sort of tech, I'm assuming. But yeah, it's just going to be weird to see that without Stark. And like you and I were talking about earlier too, it's going to be weird to see Reed Richards and Tony Stark never have that banter back and forth, and have the two smartest guys in their universe in the same room.
Yeah. I mean, if we ever have like Illuminati, that's going to be so different, with Illuminati. I mean, Secret Wars and Battle World, if they do that, that's going to be different without Tony. Like, getting rid of Iron Man and Tony Stark, that's changed so much stuff. So they're gonna have to.
And I know that they had
gone into
that movie with that already in place, that Tony was gonna make the ultimate sacrifice. But honestly, I look back at it and I think that they should have gave that to Cap and maybe played that differently and kept Tony around for a little bit longer, because there's still a lot of things that he needs to have his hand in, like the 10 rings and Ironheart and things like that. And but they went the route they went. They got rid of 3 major players, and it changes that whole dynamic and what happens going forward. And then what happens when you lose a Thor or a Hulk next, or what if this is Hawkeye's final appearance? I mean, it's passing of the torch to what's her face, to Kate. So
that's probably what's going to happen too. They're probably going to pass it over to her, and then we're going to get the Young Avengers, which will be Kate and all them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I mean, they're playing that pretty close to the comic books too, because if you see any of the pictures that have leaked out, he's wearing hearing aids. So they're going to play that where he gets stabbed in the ears and loses his hearing. And, then he starts training Kate, and if Elena's after him. And I mean, that show has the potential to be really good. I think that, I know I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I feel like with the TV shows right now, I feel like overall WandaVision was probably my favorite. And I think it was the best Disney Plus TV show so far. But Loki, I think, is the most rewatchable.
yeah.
I think, if you're watching episode to episode to episode, if you're watching all 6 episodes, I feel like that's the best one to binge and just go through and watch.
Right.
Falcon and Winter Soldier was, it had its moments where it was really good, but then it had its moments where it was just mediocre, which to me, I mean, how much I love the Winter Soldier. I mean, that's my favorite MCU character. And that show just kind of left me like, it was just blah. I didn't think it was great. It was cool seeing Falcon in his cap suit, but there was just too many real world issues going on in that show, when I feel like, this is Fantasyland, and I don't feel like we need to bring in all these real world issues and social justice stances and things like that. I mean, you can believe whatever you want. You can have your opinion on whatever. And I mean, that's your opinion. I don't care. But
Right.
I feel like a lot of people go to watch these shows to get away from some of that stuff that's in the mainstream media. And I just felt like they brought too much of it in. So just kind of, to me, it just wasn't as good as it could be.
Yeah, it should be an escape from reality.
Yeah.
And then your escape now became more force feeding you this reality. So
exactly.
Yeah. Starting to get dark over there?
Yes, it is. There's some light.
Well, there. And then there was light.
There's Allie.
Hello.
But like I said, I think that it's really going to depend to how much of that kind of stuff you bring in to these shows, whether it's going to turn some people away, or, maybe it brings more people to it. I guess it just depends on how you look at it. I'm so invested in this stuff. I mean, we've been watching this since 2008. I mean, how 13 years going on 14 years into this now, you're so heavily invested in some of these characters that I'm going to watch it no matter what. It is what it is, even if I don't agree with some of the topics they bring up, or if I don't like how they end up doing something, like with Black Widow, didn't really enjoy the Taskmaster twist, but you're so invested in these characters, so invested in these movies. You spent so much time watching these. I mean, we're like 24, 25 movies in, and we're already 3 TV shows in. I mean, it's crazy how much content there is.
Right. That'd be like watching Power Rangers up until In Space. And then you get invested. I mean, I know you ended with Turbo, because you were so invested with those characters, and they just threw you this curveball, and you're like, "Nah, I'm good."
Like, I'm out.
Yeah. So if they did something like that in the MCU, I think I would be okay with being like, okay, this is where my universe ends,
Yeah.
But I don't feel, even with things like Taskmaster and the little bit of things they've thrown in here and there, I don't feel like I'm just gonna completely just stop. But if it gets too crazy, and they just are just shoving it down my throat and just having a good time, then
that's different.
Yeah.
Well, it's like if you go back a couple of years and you go back to Captain Marvel. I mean, there were so many people who were throwing a fit that they didn't use which Rambo, the younger Rambo. I can't think of her name all of a sudden.
Monica.
Yeah, Monica. How they didn't use Monica correctly, because she was really the first one to have the Captain Marvel moniker. And people were like, oh, they just wasted this whole character. She's a kid. They, wasted it. And there was so many people were angry about that. And then you fast forward, 2 years, and then boom, you skip forward. I mean, because that show obviously was, or that movie was obviously set in the 90s. You skip forward, and then she's an agent of S.W.O.R.D. in WandaVision. Then she gets her powers, and now she's going to be starring in, the Marvels movie with her power. And what moniker she takes on, who knows? Probably Photon, because that was her mom's nickname. So I'm assuming that's what she will she'll take up.
And they were alluding to that too. And then like the way that she was in WandaVision, just the way that the powers manifested and everything, it makes sense to go with that, the Photon.
And if they don't bring back Agatha Harkness, I'm gonna riot.
That would be really good with Fantastic Four. I mean, they should sprinkle her here and there with things. But yeah, having her in Fantastic Four would make complete sense, because I mean, you look at the comic books, she was such a big part of the Fantastic Four lore, Same with Kang the Conqueror. I mean, that's Reed Richards' descendant from the 31st century.
Yep. And it wasn't one of the timelines, it was Reed Richards' son, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I'm thinking that Immortus was Nathaniel. That's what I'm thinking, possibly.
Yeah.
But at one point, it was Sue Storm.
Yeah.
She was King the Conqueror at one point. So, I mean, that would be interesting if we saw, like, Loki's going around in, season 2, whatever, and he sees all these different Kangs, and all of a sudden you see this female Kang, and it's like, that could be a variant of Sue as King the Conqueror. And then she does something screwy, and when we finally get Sue, they're gonna be like, I don't know about you. So I mean, there's so many possibilities that they can do now with the multiverse and Loki and Kang.
And Marvel's doing a really good job right now of keeping things on the DL. Like, nobody really expected until you got about halfway through Loki that you were going to see Kang and see Jonathan Majors as Kang. And they had to hide the fact that Dreykov's daughter was Taskmaster for like a whole extra year.
Yeah.
So, they've been pretty good with the keeping things under wraps and not letting things get out. So, who knows when you're going to see Kang next? I mean, obviously he's the main baddie in Quantumanium. When that drops. But I mean, we're a couple of years away from that. So where's he going to pop up next? And going back to Agatha, I mean, where does she pop up next? I mean, she could technically pop up in Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Maybe he needs to have some help,
And because we just found out Loki's going to be in it, nobody prior to a week ago knew that Loki was going to be in Multiverse of Madness. So
yeah,
they've been doing a good job of keeping things on the down low.
Because I mean, she said herself, "Until I need you." So what if she needs her help in Doctor Strange?
Yep.
I mean, if she pops up in Doctor Strange, you called it first. I'm saying it, boom, right there. You called it. So, but yeah, I could definitely see that. I think that's gonna be just a magic-filled movie, because you got Loki, you got Wanda, you got Doctor Strange. I mean, that's all magic in whatever form it is, chaos or whatever,
And then Elizabeth Olsen opens her mouth and says, "Hey, I can travel between universes." I bet Marvel wasn't extremely happy about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not as bad as what Tom Holland has said before. So, I mean,
Tom Holland is the worst secret keeper on the planet.
Yeah.
Him and Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
Ruffalo likes to spoil things too.
I mean, it's hard though. It's like you read it so much. I can just imagine that just the slip of the tongue would be so easy. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I do that all the time.
Well, yeah. But we're not getting paid millions of dollars to keep secrets.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's any truth behind this, but I was reading one time, or I think maybe it was somebody, one of the Marvel people were saying that we only gave Holland parts of No Way Home because we couldn't give him the whole thing, because He's too loose-lipped.
Yeah. You know, we had a saying when I was in the Army. Well, it's always been a saying. I think it was like since World War I or II, but it's loose lips sink ships. And it had it had like this German soldier, and he's like that. He looked like Darth Vader. Like I thought it was Darth Vader at first. And he's like this, and you see his eyes, and it says loose lips sink ships, and it's like all crazy looking. But yeah, he
That's
definitely
funny.
has some loose lips.
Dude,
But
your
that's
setup behind you, your backdrop is amazing, by the way.
well, thank you. Yeah, and Charmander's sleeping right here. Like I could see his little foot. I pulled him out, but he's been asleep for probably about 2-3 hours. So he'd probably be a very cranky bearded dragon.
Does he hibernate?
He doesn't, but that's because living in Georgia, I don't have the like the big difference. Like they'll sense the pressure difference, and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's time to go. Some people will like force them to do it, so they'll turn off lights and heat and all that stuff. But he was a rescue. They never did that. And so I think if I was to start doing that now, it'd be such a shock to his system, seeing as, you know, he's already going on 4 years old and he's never done it before. But like where you are, it would probably brumate, you know, because you guys get snow like crazy. I mean, over
Well, dude,
here,
it was 90 degrees this afternoon, and now it's like 65. That's just how it is here. It'll be like 100 degrees during the day, and then it drops down to like 60 at night.
yeah. Well, I know today it was all humid, and I wish that we could just have fall weather year round. That'd be the greatest.
Would be the greatest thing in the world.
Yes, for real. Because you when you're cold, you can bundle up a whole lot, but when it's hot, you can't get naked enough.
Nope,
Like,
not so much.
yeah, that's where you're at, and I guess you can jump in an ice bath, but it's gonna melt.
And they frown upon you if you're walking around your neighborhood naked.
Yeah, it's only if they catch you.
That's true.
Your neighbor will probably catch you.
Oh yeah, my neighbor would call the cops in 13 seconds.
He was riding a bicycle naked. I seen it.
She's just staring at me like this. She's just like, dude, calm down.
I feel bad that you have a crazy neighbor.
Mm.
I have crazy neighbors, but it's good crazy because they're like disabled veterans. So I know if something goes down, they got my back. So
that's always good.
But I mean, I think this is a pretty good first episode, bro. So
you did good.
Man, you did better.
No,
man,
you did great. I just been looking at your stuff in the background the whole time.
I guess one of these times I'll have to do it on my phone and do like a little. This is why my wife has to pay attention to my spending.
That's why my wife had me move everything to a storage unit.
Yeah, but see, this is my office. So this is like my space right here. But then Crystal's library is right up there. And I tried to put some toys in there and she said no. So because I'm running out of room over here, but she got the nice huge shelf over there.
Dude, you got plenty of room. You just need some like shelves, so it looks like a maze in the back.
Yeah. I still got some space in there. But
yeah, you got this. Well, I haven't sent your box out yet because I've been lame, but I'm gonna send your box out tomorrow though, for show.
Hey,
I promise.
Whenever it happens, it happens.
It'll be heading out tomorrow.
It's always an amazing surprise. I got stuff that I gotta get out for you, man. Like, hold on real quick. So like, I got this big bad boy for you.
I think it's awesome.
I gotta finish the painting. I haven't been able to. I was painting it, but then it didn't turn out good. So I had to re-go over it. And then I don't know how much of this I can actually show. But, you know, I got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that in there. So whenever I can get that out to you,
Well, I appreciate it.
some
Dude,
Lifetime magazines.
You moved, and I look back and I'm like, why is there a tube TV back there? And then I remember when you hauled that out to me at a diorama.
Yeah, you see the Yamcha?
Yep.
He's all dead.
Yep, dead on the ground.
Those, I don't know if you, there you go. So those are all toys from when I was a kid. When I went to my mom's funeral, I was able to find some. So it's like the super Michelangelo, and then some of the in space. And remember those trolls when you move their arms, their little things like lit up? Yeah. And then I got some like wrestlers down there, like a old school Kane. And then the very first Power Ranger toys that ever came out in the States, the big Power Rangers that had the action. I got the Red Ranger. So that's like my, besides the pops on top, that's like my little 90s display thingy.
That's dope.
So, yeah.
Man, the Mando helmet over there is pretty sick.
Yeah, dude. I was surprised Crystal got that for me for what was it, Father's Day. That was what Jay picked to get me. And I was like, oh, that's
Good
what's
pick,
up.
Jay.
Yeah,
I think sick.
You got some helmets too, though, right?
Yeah, I just opened up my War Machine one and put in my case because the Ant-Man helmet doesn't fit in my in the glass case I got, so I put it on top, and I opened up the War Machine one and put it in my case. So I've got one glass case with it's got Ant-Man, Iron Man, the Punisher War Machine, Star-Lord.
That's a sick helmet, dude.
And sorry, my phone was doing weird stuff. And then War Machine. And then my other one's got my Power Ranger stuff. And it's got the Red Ranger helmet and the White Ranger helmet. And soon to be when they release it, the Pink Ranger helmet.
Yeah, I got the Green Ranger helmet from when Bandai did it. But I need to get a Red Ranger helmet. Oh, excuse me, man. Full throttle gives me gas. But
gas,
yeah, and it tastes or smells like Mexican. I had leftover Mexican food from yesterday, and so that's not helping. But yeah, I need to get the Red Ranger helmet for sure. I need to get the White Ranger helmet for sure. And I guess they're gonna release all of them, so that's gonna just burn a hole in my backside.
Well, you've got the hardest one to find and the most expensive one, that green one. That green one's hard to come by.
Yeah. I wish I would have gotten that power. Dude, when Toys R Us went out of business, they were selling that Power Sword for like $10-15.
Yep. And there was one that the one that was closest to me that I think they had it marked down to like $30, but I grabbed it and the box was ripped open, and they had tried to just tape it back together, and I took the sword out and the sword was broken.
Oh man. Like, was it bad broken or was it like?
Yeah, it was like bad broken. Like you couldn't do nothing with it. It was messed up.
I mean, that could have been a story though. You could have put it right there, put like the dragon dagger like in between it, and like had an awesome display. That's what I would have done, but you know, I'm retarded, so. But
not true. Well, all right, bro. Well, I think it's getting kind of late, but I think this is a good one.
It's a good first
round. Yep.
I'll do my little edits and whatnot, and
all right,
put it on YouTube first because Spotify is being a butt sniff. So, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know when it's out. Yeah, they kiss my butt. No, I'll edit that out. But all right, bro. So this concludes the Harry Lollipop podcast. So to all of our potential viewers, future viewers, and all that good stuff, remember, don't Google Harry Lollipop. but we will give you some lollipops. So
Dum
we have to
dums.
work on like an outro and all that. So we'll do some episodes. We'll just say random crap and do an outro. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we do this. But I will let you go, and I will holler at you mañana.
Sounds good, bro.
Yes, and have a blessed evening, night, day, morning, all that good stuff.
You as well, home skillet.
Later.
Later.